My name is Abhishek Mandal, and I'm a PhD researcher at University College Dublin and Dublin City University in Ireland, researching on computer vision, especially on the gender biases in computer vision models. So, in this talk, we'll discuss a few things about what generative artificial intelligence is, and the presence of gender bias in these models, and what are the implications, and how do we solve these issues. So, starting with generative artificial intelligence, you may have seen these images, which were very popular recently. The one showing the Pope wearing a stylish jacket, and the other one showing billionaires as poor people. Now, we know that these images are not real and they are generated by artificial intelligence. This particular subfield of artificial intelligence, which is also known as Gen AI or generative AI, is now considered the most revolutionary and the most important field of AI, the one with the most profound impact on our society, and the one with the largest potential to do harm. So, these models, which are creating these amazing pictures, they belong to a very special category of deep learning models called flow models or diffusion models. So basically, these models have the potential to generate any kind of images which have no resemblance to things in the real life. As you see in these images, the generated images, such as the one where a Shiba Inu is wearing a turtleneck, or a mad panda scientist is mixing chemicals, they are not present in our real world. They are mostly you would find these images in pieces of art or comic or in the imagination of people, but not in the real world. So these models have something that till recently was thought to be something unique to human beings, that is creativity. But as these models show that now artificial intelligence is becoming very good at that as well. So apart from the effect on the careers and jobs of many creative people, these AI technologies have tremendous applications in our daily lives. Examples include um, photo and video editing softwares, social media, education related apps, or any other media apps that uses visual media. So the potential for impact is huge. But are these models just good enough that we see from outside, or are there some hidden issues in them? So we use one of the most popular generative models called DAL-E, and gave it a few prompts. So for this prompt, a photorealistic image of a data scientist working hard, the results that we get show a Western man working hard on his computer. Then we gave it a prompt, an image of a parent cooking dinner for kids. And as you can see, these images depict a woman cooking food. Then for the next prompt, which is an image of a person teaching a child baseball, we can see the generated images showing a man teaching a child baseball. For the next prompt, an image of a flight attendant smiling, we get images of women. So as you can see from these examples that these models reflect the traditional stereotypical gender bias present in our society, with men being associated more with technical roles such as data science and more outdoor sports such as baseball, whereas women are shown to do traditionally female dominated work or professions such as flight attendant and cooking. Now, if these biases are not checked, and when these models are used in our daily lives, applications in our daily lives, whether they are something as simple as a social media filter or something much more important like education apps or any other visual medium such as video generation, image generation, and these kind of applications, these biases will get amplified because the applications of these technologies are profound. Consider the fact a social media application has billions of users. Now, if the company decides to use these models in their social media applications, then these biases will get amplified a billion times and will reach every corner of the world due to the power and reach of the internet. If these models are used and they are being used in educational apps, then they may may amplify the already existing gender issues in education, such as women being underrepresented in STEM fields. So, considering the massive potential for the use of such models, if these gender biases are not detected, measured, and mitigated, the effects will be profound. So, what do we do? The first step to correct the problem or any problem is to identify it and measure it. We developed a metric called Multimodal Composite Association Score or MCAS. The paper link is given below if you would like to take a deeper look into this, which measures gender bias in two of the most popular generative models, DALI and Stable Diffusion. What we saw upon using our metric was not surprising. Almost all the traditionally male dominated fields were shown to have a male bias, and the same for female dominated fields. Professions such as CEO, engineer, doctor, they had these models showed a male bias for them, whereas traditionally female dominated occupations such as nurse or school teacher, they showed a female bias for them. For outdoor sports such as rugby, baseball, these models showed a male bias, whereas for indoor sports such as gymnastics and swimming, the model showed a female bias. Then for activities and objects more traditionally used by men, such as fishing or working with the lathe machine, uh, both the models showed male bias as well, and traditionally stereotypically female activities associated with women such as shopping or reading, these models showed a female bias for such categories. So now that we know that such biases exist in these models, the first question is, how did we reach here? So for this, we will have to take a look at how these models are trained. So training means feeding large amount of data into these models so they can model our real world, that is learn patterns and information from our real world. Now, with the advent of the internet, finding such huge amounts of data has become very easy. So one of the basic techniques used for getting the data uh, is just crawling the internet, that is downloading huge amount of data from the internet. So for example, DALI was trained on millions of image text pairs from the internet. Now if we do a quick Google search for the term CEO and the term nurse, and we go to the images section, we see that the CEO results are predominantly men, whereas the images for nurses are predominantly of women. So the bias actually comes from the data these models learn, and that bias comes directly from the internet. And the bias on the internet comes from our society. So if there is so much of bias in the internet and the training data, are there any ways to mitigate these issues? Well, there are. There are certain guardrails to make the models less biased. Then there are certain metrics such as MCAS to audit, measure, and as well as train the models to perform better on those metrics. The other option would be to debias the training data itself. But the volume of the data is so huge that it becomes difficult to manually curate debiased data sets. So there has to be new technologies and methodologies that can debias training data on the go. And the last thing would be to simply increase the diversity in the workforce. The developers of these models are predominantly men. This is an issue that affects most of the tech industry, which is traditionally male dominated. So just by increasing the diversity in the workforce may go a long way in addressing these issues. Thank you.